Okay, cool. Whew, man. So, I'm pretty low energy today, I'm not gonna lie. I am pretty beat like a mofo. Took me a long time to get out of bed this morning. So, we're gonna recap what projects I got going on. So one of the things that was running through my brain today was just the sheer quantity of projects I have right now happening, right? It's sort of like what I can like finish up, you know? What I want to finish up, what I should finish up first, stuff like that, to help me out, right? Because when you're kind of feeling overwhelmed with life and hobby and stuff, right? Taking account of what you got going on, and then, you know, making small improvements to reduce that load is the best way. So right now, hello, you can see my desk, and it is a metric fuck-ton mess. Like an absolute mess. Everything that's on my desk makes sense to me, but it's a lot, like, just visually to take in when you see it, right? Like, you can see all the paints here. I've got paints out for, like, 7 different projects. I've got some runners. I've got some guys I just built. You know, there's a lot of different projects, right? So, just gonna go through and, like, make sense of them, right? Like, figure out where I am on all these projects and stuff. At the end of the year, I like to do a thing called hobby debt. And it's pretty much where I go around and I just knock out like individual models that are left over, or you know, like this one piece of terrain that's been sitting on my desk for a year, you know, stuff like that, right? I like to do that, right? So I'm gonna look at my desk here. I'm gonna take survey of all my projects, and we're gonna talk about them all. You know, with the idea of moving towards that, like, let's finish hobby debt step, right? Because for me, that's sort of like a step of the year, right? I've been doing it 3 years now. It's kind of like a step, right? Just like a thing that happens, right? And as much as I love my 3D printer, it's added a lot of hobby debt. So, let's see where we're at. First off, all around my desk, you'll see these bits and bobs of terrain, right? This is bits and bobs of terrain from Necromunda and from Imperium. Awesome, awesome stuff, right? Like, look at this thing. It's freaking cool. Imagine your dudes, like, hiding behind it and be like poking around, shooting around it and stuff. It's so cool. So exciting, right? But I have a bunch of this, right? And I have it in a couple different stages, right? This one here has had its dry brushes. A bunch of the other stuff is primed. I think I have like 1 or 2 pieces that aren't primed even, right? So I basically have a big box of this stuff that's all primed and ready to like get to this stage, right? After this stage, we start putting in different colors and things like that, and all kinds of stuff. And I've got a bunch of stuff not even here yet, right? What is this for, right? What is this terrain for? This terrain's for Grimdark Future Firefight. It's for Space Station Zero, and it's for Stargrave, right? Like, it's got a bunch of different games and stuff that I use it for. It's just, there's a bunch of it, right? Because I have some variation, you know. I've got some barrels or some, like, crates that I split in half. I've got some wall sections. This one's basically done. This one just needs washes, right? That one's got all the details painted in. I've got some more crates here. These ones have some of their details painted in, but not all of them. This one is a little dark. I might actually give it a dry brush. You know, this one's a little more bright. See, I cut some holes in that one to make it look like it's taking some fire or started to pop through or something. You know, so they have a little bit more detail, and then those are all done, right? But I've got this terrain in like a bunch of different steps. You know, it's like starting to get painted, you know, a little more detail on there, fully painted, missing washes. But it's a lot of the space on the desk, right? You see I have all kinds of stuff like piled up on it, like here's my Minotaur guy, you know. all kinds of stuff just piles up on it. But it's a big project. It's a lot of stuff. You know, and if it's one that if I could finish it up, I could pretty much just set it aside and be like, okay, this is here for whenever I play, and it's really good, right? So this is a good candidate, especially considering it doesn't take a lot of focus. For just like every day after work, grabbing a couple pieces and knocking them out, right? Like even if I'm pretty tired from work, like I can work on a piece of terrain like this and knock it out, you know? It's a pretty good candidate for that. It's also a good candidate for just taking an entire day and just sitting down and doing it, like production level, like boom, 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 like, okay, this one's got washes, this one's got washes, this one's got details, this one's got details. You know, it's just production assembly lining it and knocking it all out. And at the end of it, having this huge project that I accomplished, right? It's also a really good candidate for that. This is not a particularly good candidate for when I'm feeling like mega creative, right? Or things like that. Like, if I'm like, man, I really want to just paint a really cool model today, doing this terrain's probably not a super good candidate for that. Even though I love this terrain, it's just, there's not a lot of that kind of detail. And if I try to put that kind of detail into this terrain, it's not really going to like fit with the other terrain. It's going to stand out and stuff. So, you know, I kind of have sort of a nice niche for these. So they're going to be just a project for like after work. You know, I'm just going to start working on them. Or maybe I'll take next Sunday and just do it all. You know what I mean? Something like, maybe I'll do it today. Right? But see, this right there, that thought process I just had, that's the problem with having so many projects running. Right? And I was like, oh, I could do this today. 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 I could do this today. You know, and that sort of builds up and just kind of wears on you. Right? Like you never, when that like happens, you never feel like you're like doing enough with every second. Really? 24-hour challenge. I did a 72-hour challenge, entire army, which was a hell of a thing. It was actually under 24 hours of total painting, but it was across 3 days because I'm not crazy enough to sit here and not sleep and paint. But yeah, I did an entire from box to finish challenge. It was really fun. I did it for the launch of Guild Wars 3. Not Guild Wars 3. Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. I did it for. I have an entire Palawa Jacko army because of it. It's really cool. The videos are all up on the channel too. Really, really fun stuff. And it was like me like sitting down and painting for like 8 hours a day for 3 days. It was cool stuff. It was really, really cool. I'm really happy with how they look, dude. They look fantastic. Anyway, right? So, you, like, that kind of, like, brain thing where it's, you know, you have the world of possibilities, and in every second you could fill in all those possibilities. You know, I could do this terrain. I could paint this guy. I could go prime these guys. You know, that wears on you, and it sort of, like, beats you down, right? Like you really only have so much energy and so much time in a day, and thinking you can do everything in that 1 second is super bad. So I've got this terrain. What am I going to do with it, right? I'm going to just start working on it after work. This is going to be my... I'm kind of tired. It's late in the evening. It's like 9 o'clock. You know, maybe I'm going to start poking on it then, right? I'm just going to grab a piece or two, and I'm going to knock them out every night. Just going to knock them out every night, put them in a box. Knock them out every night, put them in a box. The end of it, I'm going to have an even cooler Necromunda table, because I have a boss Necromunda table right now. But it's going to be even fucking cooler, right? That's what I'm going to do. Just after work, right? I'm deciding right now, that's how I'm going to paint these. So these aren't going to try to take up those seconds of my brain. You know? So after work, around 9 o'clock, just going to grab one, going to start working on it, going to finish it all up. Alright, what other projects do I got going on? I've got Mr. Centaur here. And his Centaur boys. Here they are. There's the Centaur boys. We'll show them off a little closer. This is Kilty Warcry stuff. It's Warcry stuff. Centaurian Marshal and the Chaos Legionaries. I've got these guys to finish. These guys are pretty much done except for their bases, right? But I don't know 100% how I want to base them, so I need to start experimenting with that. It's one of the things I'm going to do on stream today. I've decided that when I sat down, I was like, boom, we're going to do this today. You know, I got my Centaur Marshal. I might do a little more detail painting on him. There he is, looking good. Got him, you know, they're kind of like a fun project. Most of them are ready with details and washes. I have 3 who are not. Right? I've got 3 guys left that aren't part of that. So I can knock them out and get them up to the same stage as the rest of my Chaos Army. Alright, what else do I got? Well, I got some lizards I just printed. These are kind of like a fun, silly project. I intend to use them with Space Station Zero, right? This is going to be my Space Station Zero team. But they've got a ways to go still, right? So I even need to print some more of them because I didn't print enough. Right? Got my big boomer lizard here. But I'm not in a particular rush with these guys. These guys aren't causing me stress. They aren't causing me stress because I don't have the rulebook yet, right? So I can't film this game yet without having the rulebook in my brain. Because I like to be able to hold the rulebook up to the camera, you know? So they're not causing me any stress. These Chaos Legionaries, they're causing me a little bit of stress. That's one of the reasons we're going to work on them today. Because I have the Warcry stuff, and I want to try it out, and I would like to try it out with this team. So because of that, they're a little stressful for me, so we're going to work on them. What else is here? Okay, so these 2 are done. They're just over here, so I knew the paint palette. I've got a bunch of Chaos guys. You can see the tine broke off the top of his Chaos spike. I was thinking about putting a skull or something there, maybe. But I've got a bunch of these Chaos guys. These are from Imperium, right? They're from the Imperium box. They're pretty dope. I really like these guys. They're really fun. They're pretty much all primed and everything. I'm just starting to pick them up and knock them out. These are a fun project for me, right? These have to be done. I don't have like 40,000 of them. Like, I've got like a couple, you know what I mean? These are like a fun project for me, right? So, whereas these guys are causing me stress because I want to play with them, right? And they're not done yet, and I have that like looming on me. You know, I'm just taking like stock of all my process, right? These guys aren't doing that, right? These guys, they're just a fun project. I have no immediate game to play with them. I have no nothing. They're just a fun project, right? Here's one of the Chaos Possessed, right? Like, I just bought these because I thought the models were so fucking cool, right? They're awesome. They're beautifully cool models. I love them. But they're not stressful for me. These are a fun kind of like silly project thing, right? So I'm not worrying about them. Not worrying about them at all. Next on my desk, I have the Zinch stuff I just picked up and built on Friday. So I've got some of those sorcerers here. I'll be honest, I think my favorite one is actually the one from the Rubric Marines box with the sorcerer pieces. I just think this guy looks so cool. He looks really cool. Got him. And I'm magnetizing the other guy still. But like, evil magic! Alright, I got all these guys. Again, I'm not in a super rush for them. Right? Like, I built them. I'm going to work on them. I have a really cool, like, paint scheme plan for them, but they're not super worrying, right? Like, I could leave them on my desk, or I could just as easily chuck them in a box and forget about them for a month, right? Like, not super worrying. I've got a bunch of the I got those Rubric Marines that go with them, just because I wanted to try the new paint scheme out and stuff like that. I got to drill the barrel still. But you know, they're not a super taxing project. Worst case, I put them in like one of the Gundam boxes that's next to my desk, and they just stay there until I get the urge to paint them. Not super taxing or anything like that. Tyranids. I have Tyranids all over this desk. You probably noticed. And different colors, all different forms, all different things. Tyranids are a big stressor for me. Because I have not been able to come up... I really like this color scheme. I think it's really nice. I have not been able to come up with one that I'm 100% sold on yet. This is really close. I like this a lot. But it's still missing something. I gotta figure it out. But these guys are a big stressor for me. And you'll see them dotted around the desk in various different colors. And various different, like, sets of paint, right? Same thing with my pile of shame behind me. Like, there's just Tyranids, like, hidden in there, right? Like, all over. And they're actually a super big stressor for me, because I've been trying to paint them for, like, a year now. And just not having any luck with it. Over a year. God, maybe 2 years, actually. I've been trying to paint Tyranids and not having any luck. So not only are they, like, a stressor, they're, like, in my brain, like, a hobby failure, right? Which is a real, like, pain, you know? Like, it really sucks. I really want to play with these models. I want to use them as the bad guys on, like, Space Station Zero and stuff. And I can't, because I don't have a way that I like how they look. That's a real pain, right? Unfortunately, you know, whereas, like, these guys here, I could just set them aside, move them off my desk, because they're a fun thing that I grab when I want to paint a Chaos Marine. You know, unlike these guys, I can put aside for right now, because their timer's not running. You know, these guys I can keep here as, like, because their timer is running, I can keep them on my desk so I work on them. You know, these guys I can stick in a box. Unlike all these projects, this Tyranid project doesn't have, like, a good solution, right? Because if I stick them in a box, I'm going to feel bad that they're in a box. And if I keep them on my desk, they're just going to keep piling and filling in little spaces here and there. It's just going to fill up with Tyranids as I have different ideas in my mind to try. Because in my mind, these are a hobby failure, right? These are, like, me fucking up, and I feel bad about it, right? So even if they're out of line of sight of me, I'm still going to feel bad about it until I figure out how I want to paint them. And when that happens, it's going to be a glorious, wonderful, perfect day. But I can't guarantee that's going to happen, right? So they're sort of like the albatross around my neck, my Tyranids are. And that really sucks, right? Like, it's sort of a taxer that's sort of always going to be there. Because even if I get them out of my line of sight, they're still going to be a taxer on me, because they are this, like, hobby failure. So while I have things that I can do with all of these models here, so that they're not, like, encroaching on my desk to the point where I'm running out of space to paint, which is what they're doing right now, the Tyranids aren't that way. They're always going to be there. They're always going to be the stressor on me, right? And I can recognize that and be like, these guys are a hobby failure. I'm not happy with this. You know, this is going to be a problem. And, you know, I can recognize that. And that's one of the steps to, like, fixing it. Even though there's no, like, immediate solution, like chucking them in a box kind of thing. Ugh. Alright. Where else are we? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Gundam. Or Mrs. Gundam. Foam squares. I want to make these for Silver Bayonet, right? I'm not super happy with this. I don't like how the texturing on it came out. I think I actually want to try some without stones drawn in them. I think it'll look cooler. This is kind of like this. I'm content, like, basically throwing this chunk away and trying a different one, right? This is a learning process. I've never done foam before. You know, I can chuck this and start working on the other ones, right? So that's not a big deal. But I do have that as a process and like an idea of a thing that I want to do, even if Like, that, where I am right now for it is just, like, you know, I'm not happy with where I am right now for it, I guess. Alright, moving on. I've got a sort of Battletech, just sort of all over my desk. Here's an Arn Rhino. Just sort of all over my desk, taking stock of these guys. I love painting Battletech. Painting Battletech for me is a giant, like, weight off my shoulders. It's super chill, very calm, and I just really, really, really enjoy doing it. Like, for me, painting Battletech is, like, a major stress reliever. I think because it's, like, little robots, and you really can't mess them up. So around my desk, there's not a Battletech. I actually like having these guys on my desk. I like seeing the models, and I like being like, oh man, I can pick this guy up and paint him. You know, that's really, like, cool to me. So, I don't mind them being on my desk. I actually like them being on my desk. Alright, we got a couple more things. Vampires. I have a vampire army behind me that I really want to paint. I'm setting myself a goal to have them completely done by the Halloween. That is my goal right now, is to have my vampire army completely painted by Halloween. One of the reasons I'm going to do that is I want them to be the bad guys of Silver Bayonet, and I want to paint Silver Bayonet. I want to play it. The tiles I'm making for it didn't work out, but you know what? The meat trees from the Heart of Gur box are awesome, and they will make fantastic Silver Bayonet toy. So that's what we're going to do. And these guys here, need to wriggle him there. These vampires here, they're going to be my must be done by the end of October, right? I'm setting myself that goal for these, so I can start motivating myself to work on them. Interesting things with these models. I have them in a couple of different states. I have them where, like, the models are mostly painted, missing details. This guy still needs some details. Or totally painted but not based, right? Basing is a big hurdle of mine, right? And this is one of those things that when you look at your hobby progress and your hobby process, you need to consider, like, what parts you really like, what parts you really don't, what you're good at, what you're bad at. Basing is a giant hurdle of mine. It's one of the parts I do not like, and it's one of the parts that's really hard to motivate me to finish. It's one of the reasons I have so many projects that are stuck at basing. Case in point. Come here. Oh! Basically an entire Age of Sigmar army. I have, right now, essentially 3 Age of Sigmar armies that need to be based. And besides that are completely painted. I have this entire box of Necrons. Who in fairness, are mostly based. Right? So they're mostly based. They just need tufts, right? But getting through that hurdle, motivating myself to do that one step, super hard, right? And knowing my process, knowing myself, means that I can try to account for that a little bit, right? I can do basing in simple and repeatable ways. Like these guys, they're just paint out of one of the boxes, plus some little rocks I made out of corkboard, right? That's all they are, and then they get tufts, and they're done. So because I know I have trouble with that, I try not to do super fancy bases. I try to do kind of plain bases, and it helps me motivate myself to do that. If this base is super fancy, I would literally never paint bases ever. I just wouldn't. Like I would never complete these guys. But you know what? I can throw tufts on these guys and be done with it. You know. So I'm gonna set myself a goal. I'm gonna have these guys tuft today, right? Simple goal, easily accomplishable. Literally, it will take me about 10 minutes, if that. Right? So I'm going to set myself that goal. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to get these guys tough today, and then they're going to be done. Right? It's one of the things I'm going to do. All right. Ugh. My last uh, thing that's sort of on my desk and wearing on me is actually one of my coolest things I've ever done. These are my space otters. I fucking love these. These are such a simple, but probably one of the coolest conversions that I'm like the most happy with that I have ever made. Right, and I've made some crazy shit. Here's a alchemical pump wagon for the fucking Skaven that's shooting out melt your face juice. Okay, right? Like I've made some crazy shit. And these guys are literally just I sculpted tails, and then they got a head swap that I 3D printed, and I love them. And they are one of like my favorite conversions because of that. They're also the first time I'm trying out oil paints, which is where that kind of like grimy yellow looks like an old like iMac kind of armor color comes from. That's where that comes from, right? That's from oil paints. So interesting stuff, right? Why are these not done? They're all painted. Every single one of them is painted. I've got these three here that are all oil washed. Boom, boom, boom. Let's show them off a little bit more. There they are. Alright. Looking pretty sweet. Why are they not finished? I've got 4 that are still ready for oil washes. Every time I go to work on these, my brain tells me there's a better order of operation than what I'm doing. Right? Because I feel like the colors are a little muddied, like especially on the heads and stuff. With the oil wash. So every time I go to paint them, my brain is like, no, you can't do that. You're going to do it wrong. Right? You're going to do it wrong. You're going to mess it up somehow. You know, you screwed it up. You've got one that looks entirely different because you used a different, you know, thinner on him. Now you have these other guys. Like, you're just going to fuck it up. Like don't mess it up. You know, that's what my brain tells me every time. So I have a bunch of guys, right? Fully painted. Ready to rock and roll. Alright, this is what they look like before oil wash, by the way. If you want to see the power of oil wash. Like, grimy and dirty. And basically this guy looks like he just came out of fucking Starfleet. Whereas this guy looks like he's been down in a mine for like 10 years, you know? And they're awesome. And, but I don't want to fuck them up. Right? So every time I go to work on them, I'm like, oh, I can't paint you. I'm gonna fuck you up. So I just don't paint them. Right? And they're stuck here, and I'm stuck in this loop with them, right? And breaking that loop is really hard. You know, just having this anxiety over the project and liking the project so much that, like, you know, that anxiety is super, super big, right? Like, I love this conversion so much, but I have this massive amount of anxiety over finishing it because I'm afraid I'm going to fuck it up. And that's a real project, real problem. You know what I mean? That's a real problem. And the only way really to come through that, like to push through it, is to push through it. There is no like logical way to walk through that problem, right? I'm essentially in this like Mexican standoff loop with that project where I can't finish it. The only way to do it is to literally sit down and force myself to do it. Now, there are ways to force yourself to do it that are a little bit better. If I were to set myself a goal, because really, like, finishing them is not the hard part. It's starting to finish them. That's the hard part. But if I were to set myself a goal, it would help me do that. Like, maybe I don't take these guys in Space Station Zero, right? Maybe I don't take my space lizards, right? Maybe instead of space lizards, you know, I take space otters instead, right? Maybe that's what I do, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I can't play Space Station Zero, which I really want to play because it sounds really cool and fun. I can't play that until these guys are ready, right? So I'm going to be like, you know, maybe that will motivate me to finish them, right? Because really, I don't need the motivation to, like, do the actions. I need the motivation to start the actions. I need that activation energy, if I was a protein, you know, to get going, right? I gotta get the wheels rolling, and then I'm gonna go downhill. And that's, you know, that's an interesting thing, right? Another thing is, like, what, you know, where's that barrier coming from? For me, for starting these, it's so much. I love these models so much. I'm in love with them so much. I don't want to mess them up, because, like, these guys in my brain, I'm really happy with how they look, but they aren't as perfect as I feel like these models should be, right? So I can logic this out a little bit, and it can help me reduce that activation energy here, right? But it's not going to give me enough to actually start it. But it's going to help me reduce that barrier so I can, like, get over it. You know what I mean? So, where do I think the problem is? The problem really is just in the faces. I love how the armor looks. I think it looks fantastic. But I think the yellowing of the faces was bad. I think it takes away some of the character, and I think it makes them blend too much into their armor. Right? Like, they stand out more here. There's more contrast between the otter and the armor. How can I fix that? I can actually repaint the faces. And I can not use oil wash on them. Right? Like, I could repaint these heads. And then they wouldn't blend in as much, because they won't have the yellow tinge to them. And that will help me reduce the activation energy. Otters of Voltan! Yeah, I love these things. They're legitimately, like, my favorite. You know, but reducing that activation energy is going to make these easier to finish for me, right? It's going to make them easier to finish. It's going to make this process and this project easier to start, right? So you're going to see it here in the tail. There was less wash. It stands out more than the head, right? So I can logic this a little bit and reduce that activation energy. But I'm still going to need something to start it. I still need that spark, right? And that spark might be setting these as the models I want to paint for Space Station 0, right? Maybe I've got 7 of them right here. That's enough for a team. The 8th one's back here. He's the original prototype I did. I basically have to completely repaint him. But I've got 7 of them right there. That's enough for a team, right? That's a captain plus 6 people on a Space Station 0 team. Right? They could be my Space Station 0 project. That could get me over that hump. Right? And then I could turn these guys into some other project. Right? These space lizards. I could turn them into some other project. Right? Or they could be my second Space Station 0 team. Right? Space Station 0 is essentially a roguelike. Your guys are going to die, and you're going to start over and over and over, and that's kind of the fun of it. So, you know, maybe these guys are my second team. Maybe the Space Otters are my first team, you know? But yeah, like I said, we are going to do a little bit of hobby today, but I've been talking for 33 minutes already about just my projects, and sort of like how I'm going to go about tackling them, and sort of like overcoming them. That's what I've been talking about this entire time. You know, and like if you find yourself sort of stuck in this same kind of like, you know, the hobby's weighing down on you, you know, sometimes taking a minute and like taking account of everything you have going is really important, and figuring out what to do with it, right? So like here, we're gonna take some steps to reduce, you know, this right now, right? These guys, I like these guys, but I don't need to do them right now, right? So they can go in this box. You know, they're just going to go in this box. I'm going to put this on the shelf, and when I have less projects, I can grab them and rock and roll. Because I have a paint scheme for these guys that I'm really excited for, right? I have a really cool paint scheme I want to try on them. I'm really excited to do it. But you know what? I can be excited for that tomorrow. I don't need to do it today. Right? There we go. Right? And then they're just going to go on my... they're just going to go basically on my pile of shame. Right? They're just going to go right over there. In my pile of shame. Or behind me in the pile of shame. I have a lot of piles of shame. And we're going to call that done. Right? And look at this. Right? I've made this space now. I've started to make space here. Right? It's a little bit of ground, but it's some ground. And it's more ground than I had when I started. Right? I have less stuff now looming, looking at me, being like, hey, why aren't you working on me? You need to work on me right now, you know? Right? And it's a little simple one step. Alright. So, in that same vein, let's try some basing out. Because I've got that entire Chaos Army that's not based. And they're basically they're basically ready to play with. They're all primed. They're top coated. They're everything. Let's work on them. Let's try playing with their base a little bit. All right, give me a sec. Let me find a thing for these. You know what? Just for right now, I'm gonna chuck these bits in this box and I'll put them in the bag. I have specific bits bags for each faction, so they'll go in their correct bits bag after this. I don't want to make you guys sit here and watch me fumble around trying to find a bits bag. Alright, let's try some bases out. What am I thinking about doing? Alright, let's grab a different Chaos Guy. I've looked at that guy a lot. Chaos Guy, right? They are essentially like a brassy gold. They have orange cloth, tan cloth, kind of just bony bone, kind of like a tan bone, a little bit of silver, and really kind of shiny black kind of armor, right? So what am I thinking about doing? I'm thinking about putting them on gray bases. And everyone is like, won't they just blend into the base then? Potentially. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about taking this Astro Granite that I got from Imperium, trying it out, gonna put it on this guy's base. What I'm gonna do from there, I'm gonna hit it with a wash. I'm gonna hit it with a blue wash. And it should make this kind of like spooky gray blue ground, right? Like spooky, like haunted ground. And I think that sounds pretty darn boss to me, right? Like having your army exist on like a haunted battlefield sounds pretty boss. So we're gonna try that out. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna apply this down. Work on the other guys while we let it dry. Today is not about like painting together or anything. It's more about like talking about where we are with our hobby and how we get into a place where, you know, the hobby doesn't cause us stress, right? That's what today's about. I'll be honest, the gray base by itself actually looks pretty cool. It actually kind of already has a little bit of a blue tinge to it. Alright, well, we'll see how that dries up, right? Really simple. Just glop some on there. We'll see how it dries up. And then we're going to try hitting it with a blue wash from Armor Painter. Alright. Bing, bang, boom. 3 dudes left in this set to be completely done painting them. Alright, we have these 3 guys. There's a couple of ways I can approach doing these 3 guys. First off, what I can do is I can grab every model and I can just start working on them, right? This one doesn't have a whole lot of her armor painted. She needs that painted. Besides that, she's got a bunch of details in there. She's got a couple details here and there that still need painted. You know, but she's got some stuff in there, right? Take account of that. Take account of this. This guy needs some silver. He needs a bunch of cleanup here and there. He needs some armor cleanup. He needs some horns, stuff like that. This guy needs a ton of stuff. He needs a bunch of silver. He needs all kinds of his horns done. Lots of silver. Lots of silver in him. Okay. 2 ways to approach this. I can grab a model and work on it until it is complete. If I am low motivation to finish these models, this is probably the best way for me to do it. Because it means that I am going to have the least amount of effort needed to complete a model, or to get that reward from painting the model, right? I wonder what their base was if I did a purple wash. Oh, that would probably look really cool. Alright, we might be doing a purple wash instead. Blues are really cool though. I don't know. Ah, so many options. Okay. The purple might look really cool with the orange though. Okay, so I can grab an individual model and I can finish her up. Right? I will just sit here and I will paint color after color after color on her until she is done. And I will get that reward out of it. However, this is not the most efficient way of doing it, right? If I was to do a wave of color over them, like paint everybody's bone, paint everybody's silver, like that, through this like order of operations, that is a more efficient way of doing this. And it's really a question of what I need to finish these models, right? Do I have a large amount of like activation hurdle to get over to finish these? If I do, grabbing one and finishing it is the appropriate way. If I don't, if I just haven't finished them because other things have come up, doing them as a set is probably the best way. And these are cool models. I like them. I want to finish them. But I kind of just got pulled away by other projects, right? I don't have any hang-ups. I don't have any like thing getting in the way of me starting these models. So because of that, just working on them like as a group, as a unit, is probably the better, more efficient way. So that's what we're going to do a little bit while we still wait for that guy's base to dry. So, boom. I remember what colors I was using, thankfully. Because I have so many colors out right now. Pro tip, if you ever want a really good way to not forget colors, put all of your paint bottles next to your miniature and take a picture. Like this. Like that. That's what you do. With the labels facing out so you can see them. Some people are like, oh, you should write it down in a recipe book and all this stuff. I've tried to have multiple recipe books. I can just never get it to work. Like, it requires too much energy for me to do that. Putting them in a line, taking a picture, way better way. If you want to be super cool, put that picture on Instagram so other people know what colors went into your model. Yeah, I need to start doing that. I'm going to start doing that. Alright, so let's paint some bones. Alright, we got some bone color. Let's see, she's got some bones on her shields. Let's zoom in a little. There we go. Alright, we're just waiting for that guy's base to dry. But yeah. I know this is a bit of a weird stream today. I apologize. But, you know, this morning when I woke up, I was sort of just kind of like petrified. That's probably the wrong word, but I didn't really have the energy to like pull myself out of bed right away, right? Just kind of laying there and just thinking about all this different stuff in my head, and I was thinking about all these different projects I have at work and at home, and you know, I have all these different little things going on here and there, you know, and I was thinking about all this stuff, and you know, just like it's kind of running through my head. Sorry, I apparently missed a nub on the skull. It was just kind of running through my head. And I was thinking, you know what? I don't really have a stream plan for today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about my projects. And I'm going to talk about how I'm going to approach finishing them and sort of what all the projects mean to me. And probably no one's going to find that particularly interesting. But someone might. You know, someone might be like, you know what? If I was to go through and like, you know, take account of my projects, I would have less stress in my hobby life. Because I don't tend to play on boards very much, like the boards that come with all the GW products. So I gave one to a friend yesterday. That came with the Heart of Gur box. So I just walked it over to him because he works for my house. And I walked over to him and I was like, hey, friendo, here's this thing. You can have it for free. Because I don't want it, right? I have a bunch of mats and stuff I play on. I'm like, here you go, bud. It's for you. And, you know, he was talking about how, like, sometimes he's like, oh, I really want to paint this model or something, but I'm working on this, and it's just, you know, end up having all these projects going at the same time. And I'm like, you know what? I do that too. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about it a little. We're going to talk about how to get out of it. So you're not like, you know, so you're not stuck, right? Because nobody wants to be stuck in their hobby. Nobody wants to, you know, feel like their hobby is causing them stress, right? But that's no good. It's not helping you de-stress if it's causing you stress, you know? And it's the reason we have hobbies, is so we can help de-stress and calm down, and, you know. But sometimes we just need to take that look at it and be like, oh, I know what I gotta do, you know? Plus, this is going to help me get set up for later in the year when I'm going to be like hobby debt, right? Like, where is my hobby debt? Let's knock it out. You know, when I take a major look at all of this, right? When I took a look at all of my projects, not just the stuff that's on my desk, right? You know, so it's helping us get set up for that too. So super useful, even though it's probably not very entertaining. You know what I mean? So I apologize for that. I apologize if this stream is not very entertaining today, but it is a useful thing. You know, and sometimes you just need to look at what you got going on. You know what I mean? You need to be like, oh, I need to put this in a box, or I need to. You know, I need to take an actual look at where I am on this and realize that I have this hurdle I need to get over. You know, like painting those otters, right? Like if I didn't take an actual look at why I wasn't painting them, I could never start painting them. Right? And I'm aware of it now, right? Like, I've talked about it, right? Like I've tried to figure out some strategies to make it better. You know what I mean? And to, like, start it. Alright, let's check that guy's base, see how he's drying up. Is he almost dry yet? Almost dry. He's a little bit more dry. Okay, well, he's still a little bit more dry he needs, so we're going to put him right there. And we're going to start working on silver. And he should be all done by the time we're done with the silver. But I don't know. Sometimes taking that account of where you are and stuff is super important. right? And not just with hobby, with real life as well, but, you know, I'm talking about hobby here. You know, because this is a hobby, right? Like, lots of times people don't realize that, like, the strategies they might use in real life, they don't realize they need to apply those to this, too, you know? They're like, oh, this is just a silly thing I do for fun or whatever. Well, everything you do has an impact on you, right? Every single thing you do has an impact on you. That impact might be small, right? Or it might be huge and you might not even realize it. You know? You know, but you just being able to take a look at it and talk about it, like, frankly, right? Like, you saw me literally do it while I was sitting here. I was like, oh, I could do this guy this time, or this time, or this time, or this time. And then I was like, no. If I do that, nothing changes here, right? If I let my brain slot in doing this terrain at all times, I'm never going to actually do it. You know, I'm never going to actually work on it. You know? And I'm just going to have it perpetually on my brain, overwhelming me, which doesn't help anybody, right? It's super bad. Just to have stuff on your brain like that overwhelming you all the time. You know? But sometimes if you can't get that stuff off your brain, you know, there are medications and, like, real treatments, and that really super help, you know. Of all the weird things, I actually realized last night I was on Facebook before I went to bed, and I saw a post about a sleep paralysis demon, and I realized I haven't had sleep paralysis since I started taking medication. Just interesting. I used to have sleep paralysis like once a week. Like, no lie, like, for real. Like, I had it at least once a week. And it occurred to me that I have not had it since I started taking medication. So, just interesting, you know. Stuff like that sometimes is important too. So yeah. But yeah, it's important to take account of what you have going on and why. You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you working on this? Why are you, you know, what project can you put in a box? What project should you move to the center? Like, you want to take a look at it like that is really important. You know what I mean? Because your hobby is like everything else, and it does deserve that attention. You know, because it does impact your life, even if you don't realize it. Right? Even if you're like, oh, this is just the silly little plastic men. Well, the silly little plastic men, you know, you think about them, so you're putting energy into it. You know. Like, even if it seems silly, like, you're putting energy into it, so you should put thought into it too. Yep. And Okay, the base is about dry enough. Sorry, we're a little blurry there. Come on. Base is about dry enough. So we're going to do the blue. I think it'll look really cool with blue. I do like the idea of purple, though. Oh, and I even drew the purple. No, we're doing blue. We're doing blue. No, we're going to stick with the blue. Do I have the blue out? Oh, look, I even have it out. So we're going to use some blue tone from Army Painter. We're going to try putting it down on that base pretty liberally. Give it kind of a nice blue, kind of magic ground hue. And it should have a nice bit of contrast with the guy, which is what our goal is here. Ew. A little bit of the base is still wet. I think it'll be okay. Just have to be delicate with how I move it around. Yeah, it's a lot more wet than I thought it was. Okay, that's gonna have to wait then. Alright, sorry. Not gonna get to see that. I'm just gonna have to wait. It's a lot more wet than I thought it was. Alright. Well, I've talked enough. I've talked for an hour about hobby stuff without actually doing a whole lot of hobby stuff. Just talked about how to take account of what you're doing, you know, what you got going on, figuring how what you want to do first, and how to tackle it, stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it there. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah. I hope this was interesting, even though it wasn't like actual crazy hobby stuff. Hopefully it was still interesting. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it there. Thank you guys for watching. And keep on keeping on.